From deep, deep in outer space to planet Earth, to the red rocks of Sedona, to our online community here, comes a time, a message, a special series on making contact.
There is no better time for making contact. I'm George Norrie, host of the national radio show Coast to Coast AM. Alan Steinfeld has put together a well-conceived collection that covers it all.
Thanks, George, for that introduction. This is Alan Steinfeld, the editor and author of Making Contact, which is a collection of writings of the best and brightest people in the field of ufology. I'm putting together a special series of some of these fantastic contributors to my book, as well as additional researchers, investigators, and such contactees as Marina Seren. Marina will be tonight's guest on the Making Contact show. She'll also be featured in an upcoming 5-part episode called the Making Contact Series. To register for that, go to makingcontactseries.com. Stay tuned for the program. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and I'm back with Marina Seren, who's become quite a regular feature on this channel and someone who inspires lots of people in her journey of awakening and becoming the greater being that I feel her mission is on this planet to do, is bring in higher consciousness, to integrate her starseed hybrid nature with the human. And let's talk about that, Marina, because you had quite a challenge recently where you, I think, had to decide, were you going hybrid or were you going human? Because I love what you're saying, and it's very pure and powerful, and you're standing up for what's right. Would you want to tell us what sort of issues you had recently?
Sure, yes. So I have to deal with the attacks of these programs, the hybrid programs and the grays, because one of the roles that they assigned me in this lifetime is to be one of their Trojan horses for their
Let's slow down a second. So, okay, you were in touch with the grays and the hybrids, and they, just to translate, they assigned you to be a Trojan horse.
Yes.
Which means for you what?
It means like a medium to get something, like with mask, trying to introduce something inside, something that seems to be like a gift, when in fact it's not a gift, it's not something for the good of others, but rather with an agenda, with something behind it.
So you feel like the grays, maybe negative ET grays, program you to fit into the culture and do what, though? I mean, fit in as a hybrid, and what did they want you to do here?
They wanted me to become speaker. They knew that I was going to become a speaker, but they wanted me that in that career I will defend them. I will just like share the narrative of their agenda and what they want for Earth as something that is inevitable, like they're coming here and this is what's going to happen, so that people will be in a sense a little bit manipulated to believe that they're coming here because it's what's supposedly happening, or because we agreed on it on a level. And so that's not true. The hybrid reality or the hybrid timeline is just one timeline. There are plenty of timelines, and they seem to be imposing their genetics on that, let's say, with this agenda, because they want to introduce the hybrid children that they created with our DNA and their DNA here on Earth, so that then they become part of our society and civilization, and then we can intersphere and create another species that will replace the human species as a new hybrid mix, and that is what I think is so wrong, because first of all, humans are not yet fully aware, like the general mass is not yet aware of ETs. So they haven't decided. They don't have any kind of, they haven't give them the space to meditate on these things, on whether they want them to come or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So you feel
because
they were coming in to just take over without asking if it's okay?
yes, and their excuse is always spiritual bypassing. What I mean with spiritual bypassing is to integrate, to introduce or use really overuse super high perspective spiritual teachings to just bypass things. For instance, they're saying, oh, but you create your reality, so oh, but you agreed on a higher level. So that's bypassing because in a sense, that's correct. You create everything in your reality. And it's true that you manifest your own timeline, etc., that you agreed on a higher level to things. But if you see a person being robbed, you don't just go in front of that person and say, hey, but you created it in your reality, or you agreed on it on a higher level. You do justice, you empower that person, you make justice, trying to find like the boundaries, in that situation, because it's not okay.
Right.
So it's the same thing. They come here with that, excuse like, oh, but you all agreed on a higher level. No, no.
Well, so, okay, let me see if I just understand this. So you came in originally, born in this lifetime as a starseed and as a hybrid, half, maybe not half, but what percentage ET versus what percentage human?
I'm not sure of the specific number, the percentage, but I'm aware that it is higher than the average.
Right. So you came in with this, and then you were given an ET agenda. You were supposed to come, fit in, and do what though? Because you have fit in, you are here, and you are. So what did they want you to do?
Many things. First of all, by being a speaker, when I will be, in front of cameras, or what I will be like in this show, for instances, I will be telling people to accept the hybrids, to tell them that they're coming here, to expect that they have to do this, to kind of like tell them that to mentally prepare for that future. And that's manipulative because that might be not the preferred future for that person, but that makes them believe, if I say it as a fact, as a factual thing, as if it was inevitable to change, then people believe, oh, then this is what's coming next. It's not that I can control it, so they submit to it. And second, to create a vibrational, to ground their vibrational signature, their frequential signature, through activating a part of my DNA infusions that they got me in the abductions. So what I'm trying to say is that they abducted me, and with technology, they gave me their genetic codes, some of their genetic codes in which it's encrypted, its vibrational frequency signature. They put it into my vessel so that it will activate, it will perform its activations in my vessel, and that will, create like a vibrational, that will vibrate in my, let's say, aura, in my electromagnetic body. And so as our auras and electromagnetic fields are directly connected to the telluric lines of the earth, that will kind of like ground in the whole matrix of the earth their own frequency signature, so that they can match it, and it can serve like a medium so that they can come here and harmonize their realities with our reality and eventually land here.
All right, let me just translate that for people just watching. They injected your DNA with their kind of frequency signature so they can travel across the telluric line, so they can implant their consciousness in the thought field realities of Earth. I'm translating this. So then it'll be easier for them to come and take over. Is that sort of what you said? Did I miss something?
Sure. I was saying that they put their DNA in my body.
Yes.
Because my electromagnetic, everyone's electromagnetic fields is directly connected to the telluric lines of the earth, the magnetosphere of the earth, which is holding all the matrix consciousness of all species here. So that by activating it, by vibrating at their frequency signature, that will get programmed within the matrix or the telluric lines of the earth. So by having programmed that and informing the collective, the matrix of their frequency signature, they will have like a vibrational match and a medium to come here eventually and yes, take over.
But you're doing it. You're here with your DNA frequency and you're walking the earth. So how do you not do what's within your DNA to do. You know what I mean?
That is exactly what I learned in the time that I was not, in the media. What I learned is that the way that they were activating that frequency signature that they lent me, it's because they programmed me to identify myself in a sense with them. They will tell me, of course I have lifetimes as one of them, but they will tell me, you are us, you're only, you're us, you're a hybrid. They will always make me identify, even come to my dreams. When some other beings were teaching me about my connections with them, they will come to my dreams, they will interfere the dream and say, no, you're a hybrid, you're just, from our civilization, you're, you see, you're more like us because this. And so I will always, the other teams will come to me and say they're manipulating you, they're so that because they are interested in you identifying with them. And then when I thought about what they told me, I just came to understand that that's how that genetic implant that they gave me as a Trojan horse will be making its function, by me identifying with them. So what I did is that I reprogrammed my DNA, detaching from them, letting go from my reality, and redefining myself, saying, no, I am not your species.
You have your own independent mind. You're not a puppet to anyone's agenda.
Exactly.
So you are standing up for the humans, basically, right?
Yes, and other groups who are not agenda-based, because I love ETs. It's not like human versus ET, it's more like human versus an ET versus these hybrids who are definitely not innocent, because they pose as innocent because they know, and that's the problem of how they are presenting themselves and these tricks from extraterrestrials, that they can come here through many channels and give amazing speech and teach amazing things and be so smart and so intelligent that they make people fall in love with them because they actually help people. But that's like that's like the person who gives to you like a candy and then kidnaps you, in a sense.
Right. But you were very innocent. You were just going along with what was coming for you to do, and there's a lot of people, hybrids in your condition, in your kind of understanding, that are just going along because they think that's what they're supposed to do, right?
Yes.
You stood up and said, wait a minute, guys. So there's people that haven't woken up to that yet. So talk about that.
Yes. So I was observing myself and speaking about this agenda, and it will always be the same script. And everybody that is also meant to be their Trojan horse will also say the same script, no, because they're supposed to come here, because it's anyways going to happen. They will say that kind of things. We will say that kind of things like, well, that's going to happen because we are agreeing this on a higher level, and so it is for the best of all. And it's not for the best of all, it's for the best of the grace. We gave them our genetics so that they could be saved as a species. And I think that's fine. If you want to participate in such an agenda and help the grace, it's fine. But the grace always want more.
So, but the question is, you say it's not the hybrids are actually being used as a tool by the Greys. So who's the intelligence behind this scheme? It's not
all the hybrid.
What's that?
All of them. Both the Greys and the hybrids are interested in that timeline being imposed on us.
You're a hybrid and you woke up, so a lot of the hybrids are innocent to this agenda. They just think that's what they're supposed to do, right?
Yes, they think it's the correct thing, or it's the thing that we must support, and and if you don't agree to it, then they use a lot of spiritual bypassing techniques, like, no, you're resisting to yourself what and they use those kind of techniques. But the point is that I'm not just a hybrid with Grey, and that's a problem, that we associate the word hybrid with the grace hybrid because it's the trend. Their agenda has been the trend in these centuries. And actually, the word hybrid is a general world. We are hybrids. We are hybrids with Anunaki, Pleiadian, etc. And someone can be a hybrid, but not necessarily with gray, but maybe with Arcturian DNA or Pleiadian. So I'm a hybrid still, which doesn't mean I'm a gray hybrid. It means I'm a hybrid because I have more percentage of ET DNA. Right. And so it's true that I have lifetimes as one of them, but that's the point, is that I have plenty of timelines. Right. So I have many aspects that are not just
gray is just one hybrid program, and that was the controlling factor when you were placed as a Trojan horse within this culture to fulfill the Gray's hybrid agenda. But there's many different ET forces that are working with you, and so
yes, exactly.
So you were being programmed in your dreams by the negative ETs, or maybe not even negative, the ones with the agenda for their own, but you were also being spoken to by these other beings, right? Talk about what happened to you in that dream, abductions, kind of inner state, and who were the other beings that helped you get clear?
Yes, sure. Well, so actually, those are one of my closest ET families. They are Anunnakis and they are Anunnaki Pleiadians, two groups. They are the closest to me, and they've been working with me since I was very little. And when I started to connect with them, that's why I made myself also aware that there was something wrong with the other groups. Because when I started working with these groups and observed, they taught me that there were many different possibilities for our future, not just the gray hybrid program. I realized that I was getting sabotaged, that anytime that I would want to get contact with them, they will interfere.
The grays would interfere when you were trying to get in contact with these other beings.
And the hybrids, both of those
hybrids too.
Yes.
So there are some hybrids that are not just innocent; they're really been part of this.
Exactly.
I see. So were you dreaming? Were you sleeping? What happened?
It was an astral encounter, and these beings were teaching me about ancient history. They are blue-skinned tall Anunnakis, and they were teaching me about my connections to Hyperborea, to their lineage, and to the root races. And so specifically, what is a root race? Is a cycle of evolution of humanity's current collective, let's say, big cycle of evolution of era, let's say. It's called the cosmic terrestrial era. Right. And so it's composed of 7 principal root races. One of them are the Hyperboreans, and that's what they were teaching me. And so because this timeline is talking about the 6th root race as the new race, the new species that we will become altogether, the Greys didn't like it because they were observing me, that I became aware of other possibilities for me, for our future. So they came to me because they defend the idea that we're supposed to become the 6th hybrid race instead of the 6th root race. Which is not the same thing. It's not the same thing. So that's when they started to attack me and sabotage my connection and my co-creations with these beings, the Anunnaki blue giants. And they actually came to me when I was starting to notice that I was getting sabotaged and that I have many issues, even health issues. To that degree, we came, we went far. When I was becoming aware that I was getting attacked or manipulated, and I started thinking that maybe it was them. The blue giant beings, they came to me and said, "You're correct. You're not being deceived. The hybrids are behind this, and they will do whatever it takes so that they can eventually get their agenda done."
Right. And the purpose of their agenda, principally, is to take over the planet. Is that what you're saying?
Well, takeover is a word that may seem like invasive, but yes. Like their purpose is eventually not to take over in tyrannical manners, like in an active, obvious way, but rather to come here to live as equal citizens as us and even do changes as they wish. And that's the problem. This is our planet. This is our home. We have to defend it because we're here. It's our civilization. We have to be the ones who decide for it.
But isn't it okay for them to come and just live with us, or you think that's giving them
Well,
too
the
much?
problem is that they are desiring to do that so that they can do the changes that they wish for themselves. And also, they want to interfere with us so that humanity is replaced in a sense for a new species, that it will be the creation, the cooperation in between the two, which is the sixth root race. I mean, the sixth hybrid race that I was talking about.
Right.
So that's tyrannical because it will be like replacing us as we are.
And
It
this,
will take away from us a lot of possibilities and timelines. Sorry.
no. There's something that what you're saying and other people are saying. I even talked to Linda Moulton Howe. There's something valuable about us humans, and but then again, I heard Bashar say that there were the Essassani, the hybrid races, were not going to live on this earth. They were being taken to another planet where they would populate, and Earth would evolve on its own. Is that,
Yes, those are only the first hybrid races. The fifth hybrid race is the one that they want to get into the earth.
but don't you think humanity is in sad shape? I mean, we're very violent, aggressive, unconscious in a way species, and we're we could live in a better world. We could live in a place that's
Exactly.
so don't you think humanity could use some help in straighten ourselves out?
Well, that's the point, that if they reach out to us to help us evolve, that's something amazingly positive. But that's one thing. And another thing is to manipulate us through a lot of channels saying that they are coming here, they are mixing with our society, they are then mixing to create another race that will replace our species, and that we agree to it on a higher level, so we cannot do anything about to change it when in fact that's not true. We have many different possibilities.
Right. No,
That's when it's not correct.
I mean that agreeing to it on a higher level is a spiritual bypass. You're right. Well, you agreed to that on a higher. You could do anything to someone, and you could, like you said, say, "Well, you've agreed to that on a higher level," and that's abuse, and that's not respecting people's boundaries. But
Yes, that's correct.
tell me also about the situation because you were getting invaded by these beings because you were standing up for the human part of yourself, and then you had a lot of anxiety and you had to actually leave your home. Do you want to talk about what happened there to you?
Sure. And I'm open to be, I mean, I'm ready to be as open as possible
It,
because sometimes I will sound crazy if I say these things, but I'm ready to speak my truth because everybody's speaking their truth and because it's time, it's the times of disclosure. So I'm ready. I'm
okay, we're
ready.
ready to hear your truth too, so please.
Well, the reason why I was not available for months or so, it's because I was disconnecting from everything. I was treating myself for anxiety and panic attacks because I was having deep, terrible, horrifying attacks by the grace. And I know whenever someone says the word attack, it just sounds like someone is really vulnerable or maybe they are being deceived, because, everything in your reality is a projection of your own energy. I understand. But to me, it's a shock because these beings are the only beings that I've observed to be the most insistent, the most persistent beings that I ever dealt with in my whole life.
The
And I've been
grays, the gray hybrids, the hybrids and the
the
grays.
most, yes, exactly, because they want something big from us, right? So it makes a little bit of sense. But they're so persistent. It just I couldn't imagine, I could never imagine that they will be like that because they harass me 24/7. They harass me in the dreams. They make me look at the babies. They force me to interact with them, and they even make tricks in and manipulations in my dream state. What I
Right.
mean with that is that since they already know that my consciousness rejects the hybrid babies and them, what they've done is that when I dream and when I'm interacting with them, they project themselves with the flesh, with the vessel of the identity of another person of my family that I get well with or that I love, so that when I'm dreaming and I'm seeing those interactions, instead of rejecting them, I can interact with them. So for instance, is one example. It's that I was seeing a baby, like the hybrid baby that they did with me, and I was like, no, like rejecting it, but they changed the shape in my mind in the dream. They changed it for the shape of my cat that I deeply adore. And so I started to interact with it and love it. And sometimes the filter or the kind of like the matrix will shift and I will see the baby. So that's the sign. That to me was like the sign that they were using those techniques so that my emotional body, because that's something really important in the program. They know that the hybrid babies need love to live or to survive. So they need like that emotional connection with the mother. So they do those kind of manipulations.
But that's really key, because people are given their hybrid babies, and it's because it's your genetics, you have this instant bonding. Are you saying to reject that so we don't, to reject your hybrid? You're saying that. You are. That's
Yes,
very intense of you to say that you reject your hybrid babies
I
because.
do. Because I didn't decide to be a mother consciously. Because
That's
when they interact with us on a higher level and they create these hybrid babies and everything, they are, and we see ourselves in those experiences in the astral, like taking care of it and being like fine with them. They are using vulnerable aspects of ourselves or just aspects of ourselves that desire to connect with them. But the overall holistic me, conscious me, even my higher mind does not want that. So they're just taking advantage of those aspects of ourselves that have connections with them somehow, genetically or spiritually or whatever, or even emotionally, so that they can reach out to us.
that's very powerful of you to stand up and say, "No, I didn't want that. I'm rejecting, even if it is my child. This is something I don't want."
And you know what?
What?
Many of those hybrid children are not children anymore. And this is something that I'm not making it up. Bashar said through his channeler, his regular channeler, Derlanka, he said that he confessed it himself, that some of the babies will be kept in, some of the children are being kept as their child age, so that when they supposedly come here, the parents do not reject it. They have more of that, it's like the children and the parents, it's like that reunion. And so when I heard about it, I said, oh, so you're using emotional manipulation. Because if it's a grown-up person, you're going to be like, maybe like, oh, okay. But if it's a child and it's looking at you with those puppy eyes, like, mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy, please don't reject me. Please love me. That's
But
going to make the parents want it.
but I'm not taking the other side. I'm just saying those children that are ensouled are looking for people like us who have genetically been a part of that to feel that love. And if they don't feel that, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to those?
Nothing. They're not going to die.
They're not. Because I have to
They
say,
already have love they have many people actually helping them, Pleiadians, mantids, grays. There are many other beings giving them love and even taking, who cares about those, who takes care about those children's, Pleiadians, grays,
well, what?
mantids. They take
Yeah.
care of them and they love them, so they're not going to be alone.
Well, why don't those beings, the mantis, the Pleiadians, interfere with what the Greys are doing with people like you and kind of block those harassments?
Because every species have their own political perspectives, and I have Pleiadians helping me saying, like saying this is not okay and helping me, and I have Pleiadians saying me, please work with the hybrids. Every species is sided with different politics, as it happens in all species, it happens in all star systems. So that's why, because
I,
they support their politics, their agenda.
I have to say what you just said makes me feel I was feeling bad that when I was given my little hybrid baby to hold, it's like I said, what is this? I didn't feel any emotional connection. And then later on, when other people were talking about the hybrid, I was feeling like guilty. Oh, I should have felt. And it's,
That's that's emotional manipulation.
well, yeah, they woke me up in the middle of the night by running this, felt like this animal in under the inside of my thigh. I said, "That's weird," and I woke up and they gave me this little being to hold, and it was big eyes like yours a little bit, and but more of an animal feeling to it. And then it's like, oh, this is weird, and then I went back to sleep, but I never forgot that. But I
Have
said,
you ever had a pet?
what?
Have you ever had a pet?
Yeah, I've had cats, mostly cats, some dogs, but yeah.
That's what they did to me. They use a filter they
Mm.
use the energy of my cat, of my pet, so that I will have an emotional connection with the baby.
But
So maybe that's what your consciousness was seeing, like an animal energy to it.
yes, that could be. Yes, definitely. But I still felt like no connection. I said, this is weird,
Me-
right? You felt a connection, right? Or you felt
No, I didn't feel a connection.
to any of your hardbed babies.
At first, I was okay, maybe a little bit, but then when I started to get attacked and I realized what they want and support, I said no. But anyways, ever since they presented me, because when they came to me, they presented me a dream in which they were like, "Oh, help." They were making me see myself in the future, in which I supposedly will raise those children. And my dream is to become a physicist. And I believe that to do that, it's like an act of empowerment, because there's so much sexism in the career of sciences. There's many people saying that it's like a man's career, and I was always like, applauded by my friends and family for wanting to become a physicist. So that's the life that I crafted for myself. I, of course, I want to reproduce, but first I want to study, and I don't want to dedicate myself to be a mommy. I want to do more things.
Well, no
So
one's asking to be mom. I mean, they present you with the beings and they take them away and they do whatever they want with it, right? No one's asking
no,
you to do it.
they were making me see myself in the future and showing me
Uh,
cooking and planting food. They were pushing that idea, on me, that I was supposed to take care of those children and
oh,
accept them.
and your desire is to become a physicist first.
Yes, exactly, and to have a child with a human, not with a great.
Well, let's talk about why the human realm, even with all its faults and, shortcomings, is so important to you as opposed, because I believe there's something valuable in our ability to feel. I think this is what the hybrids are trying to learn, an emotional value. But to you, why are you siding with the humans over the hybrids?
Because I'm not a hybrid. I mean, I am a hybrid, generally speaking, with ETDNA, but I'm not a gray hybrid. I have an aspect, a soul aspect, that is a gray hybrid, but Marina is a mix, a conversion of many convergence, of many different soul aspects: Pleiadian energy, Arcturian energy, Andromedan energy, Anunaki energy, etc. So the holistic me right now is a human being, is a starseed, is a hybrid, but it's a human hybrid, not a gray hybrid.
Right. But what's so valuable about the human part? Let's talk about why humans are essentially an elevated species, I think.
Because we have a mix of different genetics from different densities, different dimensional layers of consciousness, which makes us to be so interesting to extraterrestrials.
But what else do humans have that these hybrids and these grays really want? Because there's something valuable.
Emotional connection, definitely,
Yes.
because I've heard them for years now, and every time a person comes with a problem, even if it's like too emotional, they're always really cold, they're always emotionless, because they think really intellectually. I'm also a lot, I'm also very intellectual a lot, because I have an IQ that is above average. So I think I have a lot of logic and science knowledge and metaphysical knowledge. So I also think a lot and interpret things really, with a lot of intellect. But when it's a problem, I make a balance. When it's something like, when it's a spiritual circumstance, I make a balance between my emotional body and my mental bodies.
Right.
It's not a math problem. It's a spiritual circumstance. So I have to make a balance to go forward with it, because that's how the humans operate.
Yeah, I think we're here. Sorry, sorry? Finish that thought.
No,
No, we're here to be emotional beings. We're here to feel, not to be
a
trapped in
balance.
a balance, not to be trapped in drama like a lot of humans are. They only act out of, well, I make a distinction between emotions and feelings. I think
Oh yes.
I think feelings are what happens every day. It's the aliveness of human beings. When people are trapped in their emotionality, they get stuck in a cycle of repeating, their anger, their depression, their sadness, that's a problem, I think, with some people. They get stuck in the chemicals of their emotional addiction. But the feeling sense, poetry and music and dancing, these are the joyful feelings of human beings, and you like that part.
Yes, I love it.
Oh, well,
You know, and that's why they eventually could go forward with the attacks that they perform me. And something that I didn't mention, that I forgot to mention when I said that I was going to speak up about it, is when I said the ways that they attacked me. They were almost going to kill me.
really, how is that going to happen? Why would they do that?
Why? Because I was working with this group of other beings. I was co-creating another timeline for humanity, and I was one of their big trained horses. And the gray of my specific team, let's say, of the hybrid programs, he didn't like it, and because he's emotionless, he has no compassion. The hybrids manipulate, but the grays have no emotions whatsoever, even less emotions than the hybrids. And he eventually was about to kill me, because he
Because you
was
were not the
attached.
Trojan horse they wanted you to be. That you were sabotaging their program. Is that why?
Because I was sabotaging their program, their agenda with me, and because they are attached to me, and because I am the one that they are attached or connected and to use as their way to get here, specifically my team. If I will co-create other things, their timeline will just fade away from my reality. And so that's something that way they cannot reach out to me anymore and get what they want. They don't have anymore their trainer horse to get what they want, my team, like to get the babies. And also, as I said, I was working with the contact specialists of Bashar.
Wow.
So any
So
of them liked it.
they were going to kill you, like how? By thinking like suicidal thoughts or something like
No,
that? How were they going
the
to?
gray, um it's really 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 horrifying, because it's not a subtle attack, but it's invisible, because you cannot see them as. And so how do you go to the doctor and say, I'm being attacked? How do you ask for help? Even I was screaming for help, like, I'm being attacked, I know that is someone, but I don't know who it is. And so what I will feel is that every time that I will get closer to these beings and will get like farther movement into that direction, and I will detach myself from them, i will feel I will get a feeling inside of me of like a presence that was really terrible, making me feel empathically or telepathically that I was going to die, that I was going to leave my body. And so when I felt that emotion, when I felt that energy, I remember a nightmare that I had with the hybrids one, in which I was sleeping, I was falling asleep, and I was waking up, I was getting out of my body, and they said, maybe you have to leave the earth because you're not following the
Uh,
plan. And so I was getting that if I will continue forward with leaving my body, I will die in this body. And so I immediately came back. And so the energy that I felt in the attacks is what reminded me of that nightmare. And I started to think maybe it's the hybrids who want me to die because they mentioned it, first. And so what I will feel is a lot of high tension, like a feeling that someone was going to rip me off of my body. And this gave me such a big tension that I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe, like not even with pills, with drugs, or not drugs like, from the drugstore, from the doctor.
Right.
Even with drugs, even with pills, medicaments, like all those things that the doctor gives you for anxiety, for panic attack, nothing will make it stop. Like every second of the day, I will feel like in a tension that was going to give me a stroke in the heart. And I went to the doctor and they said, this is not normal.
And
this
what
is
happened?
not normal.
What
What's
did
going
you
on
do?
with you?
What
And
did
it was not a problem of my own health. One
what
day,
yeah.
one
No,
of
go
those
ahead.
days, one of those days that I was getting like this feeling and that I couldn't sleep, I finally could fall asleep, and then I will wake up in a ship in which I will see the hybrids and the gray being that was attached to me, that is the one who showed me the babies in those other experiences. He will be lending me the gray, he will be the one who will then make me see the gray baby. He will be the same one, and he will be staring at me and projecting, and I saw how he will be staring at me and projecting me this energy. And so that's how I realized that it was him who was attacking me.
Right.
And what I did,
Yeah. What did
what
you
happened,
do?
how I survived it,
Yes.
because I realized how they were trying, and I reached out to my higher self and my ET contacts for help. I was screaming help, and I said, I cannot die. And so they came to me and they started to give me downloads of information. And what I got telepathically is that the gray was using a technique, a psychic attack, that was, let's say that we have two magnetic vortices in our, let's say, field, one that is clockwise and one that is anti-clockwise.
Yeah.
That's the Merkaba. One is the energy of the materialization, and one is the destructive energy of dematerialization.
Yeah.
So one goes down and one goes up. What he was doing with the psychic attack is that he was deharmonizing those two vortices energies, like deorientating, like changing the orientation of those magnetic vortice energies, like the spin, so that my soul will dematerialize and disconnect, disattach from the physical vessel. Right. So that's the download that I received, and they told me that the physical representation of that, it will be having something like an aneurysm, because the tension was so high that it was going to cause me like a stroke or something. So they told me that will be the physical death, as like the physical death. But the mechanics of it, the metaphysics behind it, it's exactly that kind of attack would.
And how did you heal that whole thing?
With breathing, because the magnetic field, it's all about breathing. So I stopped breathing, and that way I will calm my tension. It will be like, so, because breathing is about exchanging our electromagnetic field, is how exchanges energy with the electrons, with the outside. It's that technique of regulating all of the vortex. It's a technique, it's a mechanism that regulates all the vortex of the chakra system and the Merkaba. So I stopped breathing and I started to breathe really slowly, and really, really, really slowly, and then pull slowly. And at that speed of breathing, then it just get balanced. So they did save my life. My contactees, they saved my life.
But you had some human help too, right? Didn't you go and get some help professionally?
No human profession. Oh yes, that's consequence of the attacks of anxiety and panic that I got after I experienced this, because you can imagine that if I say this and someone believes that I'm not, someone doesn't know my story, they might think that I'm crazy, So right. Imagine a person that is not even a believer of this kind of things, that does not believe in ETs or soul right. or metaphysics. I sound like a crazy person. So I was having anxiety and panic attacks because they do everything in the shadows, in the back,
Right.
in the behind my back. Nobody, I don't have a physical proof. I cannot prove it. I have no physical proof.
But how did you then eventually, just with the breath and your own internal meditations, you were able to find that sense of self inside you that was able to turn it
During the
around?
attack.
Yeah. During the
And then
attack.
afterwards, I got human help, like psychologists that will help me with the anxiety, how to manage the anxiety and everything. But
So
that was
yeah, go ahead. Okay.
that was for the general anxiety after the attacks.
So are you free of these invasions now?
When I went for the first time live again about my experiences, I received like a strange energy back to my room again. And I received them in my dreams again because they are so persistent again. But the attacks themselves, no, because of what I did. I reprogrammed my DNA by stopping identifying as one of them.
Right. That's smart. Yes.
That way they cannot get that point of intersection, that area of intersection between their reality and my reality.
Right. Are you going to be okay after this program? You
Of course.
Okay, good. So you feel more solid. Good.
I do.
I do have to say, when you were talking about the gifts of being human, we were talking about the joys, but Bashar and the Asasani says the reason we're here is to follow our highest excitement.
Yes.
So how does that mess, even though you're resisting the hybrid agenda, that is a big part of the agenda. So how do you make peace with those two different things?
Oh, like how do I make peace in the sense of like, well, this seems to be so enlightened, because that's true. We are our highest excitement. And Bashar is a great teacher. I will never say that Bashar is not a great teacher. Bashar is a great teacher. Mm-hmm. His teachings are great. His teachings are something that deeply resonates with, because he channels like the physics of the start of consciousness, like I do. But Bashar teachings are the Anunnaki's teachings and the Pleiadian's teachings too.
Okay.
I mean, there are differences between each other, but we are part of one same big Anunnaki family. And so the hybrids, they are our descendants. Everything that they got genetically is our genetic code. So whatever they said is knowledge that we contain within ourselves already from the Anunnaki. And they even claim it. This is what we know, is something that you know yourself because we are your descendants. So that's the proof to tell people that no, we do not need the hybrids here to come here physically. Do we want them as our teachers? I think that's great. But do you want them to come here? That's your decision. But we do not need them. That's the difference. To come
and
here.
We have the right to say no.
Exactly.
But just getting back to the Anunnaki, some people say there's many factions of Anunnakis, of course. Some were here to enslave humans, some were here to free us and give us different technologies. So how do we...
Can I add just one thing before going that way?
Please.
Thank you, Alan. Just when we were talking about how do I make balance or peace in between Bashar, his great teachings, the whole resistance with the great hybrid agenda. Well, to me, it's easy. I was almost killed by them, and I was attacked. So I have, even if you teach me, even if you give me teachings, that doesn't compensate what you're doing with me. So, but be careful, because people when they hear Aniti being so enlightened and speak so with so much intelligence, so amazingly, like gurus, they automatically think that they are their teachings, that they apply all of their teachings. No, I can get in front of the cameras and give you an amazing speech on how you can become enlightened and super spiritual, but then on my private life I can be whomever, and you and you and you.
You think that's what's going on with not the Assasanis who live in, or maybe Because the Assassinis are on their own planet. They're on their own.
Yes, but they are the political heads of this whole agenda through Bashar and the contact family of Bashar. I even had experiences with Bashar that were negative. So, I mean, not negative, we're neutral. We're the ones in which we were co-creating like the whole disclosure thing. But then, when I will start to hear his teachings, then it will change a little bit into becoming more political rather than spiritual.
So what teachings would you like to put out there for the world that would be an amplification of the stuff that you didn't agree with? What do you feel?
I agree with their teachings. I don't agree with their politics or their agenda.
Right. So, but let's get to the Anunnaki a little bit, because you reference them a lot and the origins. And I said there are some history of negative enslavement to humans, which is even worse than just coming and taking over the planet. They actually enslaved us. And some aspects were here to free us, as legend has it. So what do you think? How do you know which Anunnaki group to align with?
Well, that's a good question, Alan. Actually, there are many different kinds of Anunnakis. The ones that enslave us are one group specifically, but there are many other Anunnakis who are not negative. One example is the Anunnaki from the Anunnaki Pleiadians from Aldebaran, that is part of my star family lineage. And one of the others are the blue giants that I was talking about. So when I went to Rob Gauthier, that is a great channeler, I asked him about these blue giant beings that were working with me, and the ones who helped me, also the ones who warned me against the hybrids, and said, this is what they're doing to you. And do you know what he said? Arif, he said, oh yes, the blue giant Anunnakis are they're working with you now, and they love you with their true hearts. They are not like those other groups of Anunnakis who see us as your bastard children, but they rather love you as who you are, and they deeply love you from within. So in the moment that I heard that, I got the confirmation, because Aridith is neutral, he has no agenda. I got the confirmation that the beings that are working with me are not agenda-based. They love me, and everything that they wish is positive. And actually, I've never had any interaction in any kind of intervention from them. They are really positive, and I'm actually going to post that if Rob gives me permission, I can post that session.
That would be great. I'd love to post it too. But everything you're saying, we'll get back to Anunnaki about the hybrid agenda, is what David Jacobs, you know who David Jacobs is?
Yes, I've heard about him.
He was one of the first people in regressing people say, oh, you better watch out for these hybrids, because they look like they're not who they appear to be. So I don't know. I haven't had the experience you have, but he's wrote a book called The Threat, where he said, this is what a lot of people were saying, abductees were saying about the hybrids. So he might be a good person to bring on a program with us about.
I think so too. Because it's not that I'm saying that the grays and the hybrids are purely evil and they are so dark. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that nobody is either dark or light. We are all scales of grace, because we are not just one idea or one concept. We have many different beliefs and many different ideas within our consciousness. So because we have so many of those, some of those ideas will be vibrating in love, and some of them will be vibrating in dark, in fear. So generally positive beings will appear to be so light, almost close to white color, whilst still not being the full light essence, like the full white, let's say. And dark beings will look really close to dark, to black color, but still not get to be full black, because we are in a scale. The law of polarity tells you that everything is either right or left, dark or light, feminine or masculine. That's a law. There's no gray. There's a neutral there's a neutral place in between, which is the balance, the harmony between the two. But there's no gray in between those. It's either black or white. But because beings, we have many different aspects and ideas within ourselves, we are never going to be just one black or white. We're always going to be in a spectrum, and some will be lighter and some will be darker. Some will be in between. But so even if they present themselves to be really positive, they have their dark shadows too.
Right. No, thank you for that. But the big question I think this all comes down to is we're at a convergence of timelines. What does the future look like on what do you see it as? I mean, it's up to us now.
It's up to us.
But
You want
Yeah.
If you want the hybrid timeline, you can have it if you wish. It's up to you, But if you want another timeline like me, and if you don't wish the hybrid, then you can also have it. You have a choice. My point is not don't do the other thing. My point is you choose. Don't let any ET make you believe that you cannot choose, that they are the future. This is not true. You can choose.
But there are ETs in our future one way or the other, right?
No, there are thousands,
Okay.
millions, infinite possibilities.
I know. But it seems like things are pointing towards
Yes, exactly.
an
I know.
arrival.
You're right.
But that doesn't have to be. There's people who will take a timeline that's something else. I prefer a timeline that has positive ETs
Yes,
that
of
will
course.
help us. Right.
Me
And
too.
is there any way of working with your ET side following an agenda that not an agenda is not even a good word, but the best possible world for all beings? That's what I'm looking for. I'd like
Yes.
tell us.
100%. And that's your journey of developing your own discernment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is my personal journey in developing my discernment on who these people are. And these groups, not just the ETs, but the real people that I'm connected to, they reached out to me and they said, the hybrids do not love you. Because I was being deceived. I was being like, oh, but maybe they love me because they're my family. And they said, the hybrids do not love you. And so this was my own journey of detaching from them and learning that, they wanted what they wanted. I was their trained horse. They were using me. And so they attacked me. And so it's not for me.
Right.
It's just not for me.
Marina will be featured in an upcoming 5-part episode called the Making Contact series. Join us for this online series, Making Contact, the New Realities of Disclosure and Cosmic Awakening. Thursdays beginning May 19th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Presented by Alan Steinfeld and New Realities, Deborah Giusti and the Global Peace Tribe, in association with Neil Gar, Portal to Ascension, and Star Family Wisdom. To find out more and to sign up, go to makingcontactseries.com. See you there.